Oh, I'm sorry, I'm waving to the media committee.
I was not.
But you can wave back. I'm very friendly, I promise.
He'll wave to anybody.
The clock in the room is wrong.
And so I just.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the October 15th regular meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. Please take note of all the exits around the room. In case of mishap, and now join me as we salute the American flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honestly, I think it's conditions.
Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to first, since we do this normally at the end of the evenings, thank the media committee once again for not only making these meetings possible to be shown on our local channel, but also for doing the wonderful editing job you do and having them posted on our town website under YouTube. So thank you again, because it's a lot of dedication, I know. The first item on the agenda is Hyde Park Condominium Association. Applicants are seeking to upgrade the wastewater treatment facility. And could you come and state your name for the record first, since we haven't seen you before, or in a while? Yeah. Should have it set up for you.
Okay. My name is Larry Paggi. We are the civil engineers representing the Hyde Park Condominium Homeowners Association. And the proposal before the board tonight is a rehabilitation of an existing plant.
Oh,
Can you hold the microphone a little closer? Thank you.
Up, okay.
there you go.
Very good.
Sweet spot.
If you are familiar with the site, the existing wastewater treatment plant is located in a barn or shed type structure not far from Route 9, along the frontage of the Hyde Park Condominium site, and also across the street from the Royal Crest apartment complex. The existing structure is texture 111 natural siding with a shingle roof. The facility dates back, I believe, to the early 70s. Was designed by your now town engineer's predecessor, I believe. I think Mike Morris designed the plant way back when. And it has really it's coming to the end of its useful life. It's seen several modifications over the years. Currently, on the east side, the side away from Route 9, there are several tanks that are buried. We've learned that those tanks are actually constructed of block, and they are, they're failing, they're leaking, not out, but in mainly. Groundwater is infiltrating into the tanks. Inside the building, there is two primary pieces of equipment. One's known as an RBC, a rotating biological contactor, which is operational but old and in need of maintenance, and a clarifier, which is a metal tank, which is also operational but is exhibiting signs of significant deterioration. The plan is to rehabilitate the facility in a manner that is both affordable for the homeowners association, while certainly being as effective as it needs to be, if not more so than the existing plant. The existing plant is currently meeting permits, so it is operational. The plan to rehabilitate the existing facility actually was developed more or less as a complete replacement, including the building. And the reason behind that is, as you can imagine, we've got to continue to treat wastewater from the existing facility while the new plant is constructed. So I can point here. This is the existing building. The existing tanks are located to the east between the existing building and the complex, Route 9 being out here. And the proposal is to construct a new building immediately south, this is the area of the existing building, and install new tanks, basically where the existing tanks are now. We're doing it in 2 trains. The one train of tanks is located where the existing tanks are, so the intention is to install the easterly row of tanks, decommission the existing tanks, remove them, install the new tanks, construct the new building and the new equipment, take the old building offline, and then remove that equipment in that building. The project has been in front of the DEC. The DEC delegated review authority to the Health Department. The Health Department has reviewed this. We are at a point where we are really just addressing some I dotting and T crossing. We really wanted to make sure that the design was pretty much solidified before we came and bothered you folks with this. So we're confident that we're going to have an approval from the Health Department probably within a week or 2. The proposed building will be 22 feet, if I remember right, by 46 feet long, which is very similar to the existing building. It might be a few feet different. This will give you an idea of the appearance of the building. That's basically what it looks like today. We are, again, our intention with the building is to be effective, to mimic what's there, to be unobtrusive, to be durable, and to be affordable. So that's a couple of things on our plate, and the intention is to construct a pole barn with a synthetic siding, a vinyl siding. We've chosen a board and batten to give an appearance that's similar to the existing building, and also, you know, a barn type appearance. We've selected a color that we think will blend in with the woods around it, and very similar to the color that's there. It's going to be a dark brown. It's called Autumn Harvest, I believe. This is the color of this is actually a sample of the board and batten siding, and a weathered wood architectural 50-year shingle is proposed. I think that might be about it.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask you, put a couple of things out first before I go to the consultants. One, our administrative assistant painstakingly got all the grid numbers, but I think it would be best if you also supplied them rather than just putting various, so she could have something to compare it to for completeness, because I want to make sure that we don't miss anybody. There are tons of grid numbers on this, as you know.
There are.
Also, our code requires screening between residential and non-residential uses, and I don't think you've proposed any screening or landscaping to assist screening during leaf-off season, so we're probably going to be looking for some sort of evergreens at some point around it. And it appears that this system serves the Royal, I think it's called Royal Crest Apartments across the street.
That's correct.
Do you know if a T-Corp was ever formed? Transportation Corporation?
I don't know. I think my understanding is that they may all be under one association. I don't know the answer to that, though.
According to the surveys you supplied, the owner across the street of the Royal Crest appears to be Kathleen Rogers in Rhinebeck,
Okay.
and you have an HOA on this side. So I would think the Department of Health would ask you to make sure that there's a transportation corporation, since there's different owners of the sites. And I didn't see anywhere in the material, I know Department of Health is going to be making sure that the system is adequate for the demands placed on it, as well as having, you know, some extra capacity. But do you know what the gallons per daily, what they are for each site, by chance? You can get that information later on.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously do. I mean, we've submitted all this.
I figured, so.
Yeah.
Michael and I talked.
I think the permit is 38,000 gallons per day, and I will verify this. And it's not equally split between the two.
No, there's more condominiums by
Right.
far than there are of the apartments.
Right, and I'm talking about the Transportation Corporation. I will try to verify that, but this system has been in operation, obviously, for years.
That's why I assume that, but it's better protection for, I believe, Ms. Polidoro, our attorney, can better address this, but I think it's better protection for you to have a T-Corp formed when there are two owners, different owners using the same system. The other question I had was, and this may be off your radar, the site immediately to the south and to the east is owned by a gentleman, Gideon Raviv, and he had a subdivision proposal on it. At the time, he was proposing to connect, he actually owns that strip of land that looks like it's a road.
Right.
He was proposing to connect into your system and told us that he had some sort of agreement in place. Can you check in to see if that agreement is still in operation? Or if it ever existed? We never know.
Seen Gideon in a long time.
Yeah, we haven't seen him for a while, but just because I think that's information the Department of Health would want to know. If
Is it modular or?
We researched the Health Department records, and there was no agreements in the Health Department records.
they didn't make it that far.
They didn't
He
get
just-
that far,
He
no.
just said he had something in place. Now, again,
Larry, is it modular anyways? I mean, so you could add to it?
It's really not.
not,
No,
this
it's
is
really
not a
not.
modular system because you've got
No.
tanks that are built for a specific amount of
Right.
supplies. So let me go to the consultants. Mr. Sotero, any comments?
We covered some of them.
Sorry.
No, that's good. Larry, where's the discharge point? Is it to that cross culvert that goes across 9? Because we're going to probably want you to label that where the discharge point is.
There's actually an existing outfall that travels to the south, and there's manholes on either side of the road. It's piped. It's piped right down to the river. It's a solid,
Oh, that's the pipe system that goes down Scenic Drive.
absolutely, it goes all the way down to the river.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So who owns that piping system then on Scenic Drive?
My understanding is that the homeowners own that, homeowners association owns that.
Okay. I remember that now that you said that.
Is there an easement that goes all the way down Scenic?
And that it might be in a right-of-way at certain points, but I believe there's easements in place as well.
All right.
And again,
Well,
there's no modifications proposed to any of that. We're connecting to the existing,
yeah, no, but I mean, if there's an opportunity, to clean up some things just to make it easier for people who look at this in the future.
right.
That's why I'm surprised that if there is definitely two different owners on each side, that the health department hasn't, mentioned to you about the transportation corp.
Right.
I mean, it's,
Or the DEC. I mean, this.
that's pretty unusual.
Permitted for flow from both, I mean, the Speedies permit acknowledges flow from both facilities.
I've just never.
All right, well, that's something that's got to be checked. We'll cover that in our draft, not in our draft letter, but in our final letter.
Okay.
Michael, our chairman, already touched on the landscaping plan. What about access? Where does access to this plant come from? Is it from the adjoining parking lot?
Yeah.
Is it on the condominium association's property?
It is. There's a set of buildings over in this area, and there's a drive that comes right down and kind of terminates at this area right here.
Okay.
Drive in through there, yeah.
All right. The generator, I'm thinking because it's pretty close to some of those buildings, do you have any sound attenuation on it? Like, like a muffler, they have like, a silencer on them, and then they can also come with sound attenuation panels on the inside of the unit, just to
Right.
kind of muffle the sound a little bit.
Right. I mean, the plan was to have sound attenuation on it, but, I mean, again, we're not going to be going for a whisper quiet generator either, I don't think at this point, just because of cost, associated cost. I mean, obviously, the generator is going to be muffled, and there will be sound attenuation panels, but,
Well, I mean, that's all that you would need. I mean, if
Yeah.
that's,
I mean,
So
they'll hear
maybe-
it. They'll hear it running, but.
oh, yeah, no, I know they're gonna hear it running. It's not gonna be absolutely quiet, but
Okay.
as long as you have, all right, so we could just add that to the plan, that's what it's gonna have, and we'll put that in our letter, and then
Okay.
and then if you can just put a note on there that the generator will be exercised pick any day during, the week, midday hours, for exercising, and I think that's it. The chairman covers some of the other things. Odor control, is there any like provisions, health department?
We have provisions for odor control in the building. Currently, odor is not an issue with the existing process, and we're basically going to be using the existing process and just obviously making it run better. We're going to,
Yeah.
But there is odor control in the building that at this point, we don't anticipate that it's really ever going to be used, so it's going to be operated manually if it's needed. If it gets to the point where it is actually something that needs to be run, we'll probably put it on a humidistat or something like that.
Okay. All right, so that is going to be part of the plan?
It
Okay.
absolutely is. Yeah, there's carbon filters inside.
Okay. Okay, that was all. So we'll issue our letter after the meeting tonight.
I hate to be rude, but I need to tell you that when we have the public hearing on this, it's likely you're going to hear comments from neighbors about odor.
That's fine. That's fine.
Um,
And I expect that
I don't
the
know,
odors,
the odors may not be right around the building, but I know that they're,
I think, from my understanding, from the homeowners association, from the board, the odors are more often associated with the septic tanks over on Royal Crest.
indeed they are.
So-
I was going to say, the complainers are going to be coming from Scenic Drive, just so you
Right.
know.
Okay.
Although we haven't had any complaints in the last year or so.
That's because I believe you and Ms. Svensson, Councilman Svensson, discovered you couldn't do much about it, because I still hear them.
Well, I think they went out, oh, really?
Mhm.
Because I thought that the association went out and made a few repairs when we had brought it up to them, and,
They
So-
did. Mr. Frankie says he still smells it.
Oh, really?
So does Mr. Hamlin, and there's some new owners of a house nearby that thought they detected it too. So I have assured them that I hope we'll be taking care of all that by this upgrade and replacement system. So, but
Well,
just anticipate hearing some of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not associated. It'd be something that we would have to look at in addition to this.
Okay.
I mean, because what happens is all the sewage is collected there, it's stored, and then it's pumped, and just by the fact that it's temporarily stored and pumped and air goes in and out,
That could be it.
it generates some odors if it's not vented properly, so.
Okay.
We could look into that, so.
I guess the other thing I was thinking about too, do we have property lines on here? Because I was thinking about setbacks. Do we have any setback issues?
Let's see what I have on the site data table, Pete.
Because it doesn't look like there's any property line data on here.
There should be a front property line.
There is a front, there's not to the sides, to the north and
I
south.
don't see a
Right.
front property line.
And he exceeds the setback. They're moving the building back 11 feet, so he exceeds the setback even further. And he just shows greater than 20, greater than for the
Right,
side
right.
yard.
The front setback is 50 feet. The existing treatment plan is 68, and we're proposing 79. And the side and rears are 20 and 30, and nowhere near either one of them. So,
All right, but what do you base that on? Because
You know
I
what,
still don't see a property line, but.
we'll get that shown on there, Pete. I'm
Okay.
thinking now that it may have been something that was, turned off. May have been layered.
Cat error.
Yeah.
That's right, we love that cat.
Famous data layer is being turned.
Data layer, that's a good
Could
one.
be.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Polidoro, any comments?
Just that this is the first I've heard that this was serving two separate properties, so
Oh,
we'll continue discussing the transportation issue.
okay. Let me start to my left. Mr. Signa, any comments?
No comment.
Mr. Murphy?
Larry, that rendering that you had on the other side of that bottom thing looked kind of like a barn.
Right.
Is there a relationship between what you're building and that?
That's what it's intended to look like. I started to describe it and kind of lost my train of thought.
No, there's the ratio of height to width, the same as on the barn, if you look around.
Oh, that picture?
Yeah, that
No, that picture was taller than what this
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
on
that's
the
what I
other
mean.
side.
Yeah, you know
I
what?
was kind of hopeful that it was.
No, that's,
Yeah, that's
I was
a real
just,
barn.
I
a real
got my
barn.
hopes up there for a
no,
minute,
I'm
Larry.
sorry. The intention of the photograph was just to try to demonstrate what vinyl,
That's what I'd like to see right there.
well, that's
Okay.
not going to happen.
Okay, just check.
That was just really to show what the vinyl,
Good try.
what
I know.
pattern
I
would
thought
look
I-
like.
Might get
My
him on the record,
apologies.
you
I
know.
didn't mean, I shouldn't have put that on there. It's a little misleading.
Ms. Dexter, any comments?
No.
Mr. Oliver?
Just one comment about the screening. I would like to see some screening in there.
Well, you know what, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was meaning to actually ask for a little bit more clarification on that, where you're thinking about screening would go, because I did kind of anticipate that that might be an issue. I mean, there's significant vegetation along Route 9 in
Right,
this
but
area.
the vegetation there is primarily deciduous.
Okay,
And so, since it's now our time, so I think you just need to put a row of some sort of evergreens,
right.
basically, in
close to
through
the
there.
building?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's all.
we can do that.
Because it's a residential use across the street from you. Anything else, anything else, Chris?
That's all.
Mr. Marsigliano?
This is basically a replacement of the present system, is that?
Exactly
is that
right.
what- Are you using many parts of the present system, or is it totally?
We were contemplating using the existing RBC because it is operational, but it just did not lend itself to changing over, so we are just basically dismantling and replacing.
And are the requirements the same now as they were in the 70s for size of a system like this, or did you have to adhere to recent requirements?
We have to demonstrate that we can meet the current permit requirements, is what we have to do with our design. I mentioned earlier that the system had gone through several modifications through the years. I think originally there was a sand filter on it without an RBC. Then the RBC was added and the sand filter was removed. When we first brought this to the DEC, the first course of action was to establish the way to answer your question is what are going to be the requirements of the effluent limits coming from the plant, and that was what we have to meet today, what the DEC is going to require, and that was our task. Basically, what the new plant's going to achieve. Some of the improvements that are going to occur with the plant is that there will be significantly more storage volume. It will be set up in components, so it will allow more readily allow operation. In other words, one train of tanks can be taken offline temporarily while it's serviced and the plant can remain in operation. There's some existing equipment that is just not functional within the building, and the plant is meeting permit anyway. All of that equipment's being replaced. Aeration equipment is currently not serviceable in the building and is being replaced. And there are a couple of other pertinent issues that we had to develop. There's the water supply to the building now has to be protected with backflow prevention and things like that. So there are certain new standards that we had to meet as well. So
The storage, is that 14,200 gallons? Is that basically what the storage amount is? Or is?
There's two parallel trains of septic tanks on site. Each train has a 6,500 gallon tank followed by a 3,500 gallon tank. So there's actually 20,000 gallons of storage. And then the 14,000 gallon tank is actually, that's a good observation, that's actually an equalization tank, which allows the water to build up and draw down at an equal rate. So in other words, when everybody is using the plumbing fixtures at peak hours during the day, generally the morning, that tank will fill up, but it'll discharge at a continuous rate to the plant. When everybody's going to work and there's no water coming into the tank will draw back down. So, and that tank is larger and it's going to be equipped with air, which is not currently happening. So, the treatment will be enhanced, the serviceability will be enhanced. We expect that it's going to be much easier for the operators to maintain and hit permit, but we're doing that really just with the intention of making sure this plant continues to meet permit for a long time in the future, and that this homeowners association isn't faced with this again.
Just one final.
Go ahead.
The size of the system, how is that determined? By square footage of the apartments, or by bedrooms, or bathrooms, or what?
It's actually by bedroom. by bedroom count.
just like a normal house
Right,
would be.
exactly. And when you have a system that has a history as long as this, you also take into consideration what records you have for flow. So, and that actually helps us design the system better and know what we do have to equalize. In other words, the permit, I hope I'm right, I'm not absolutely sure, but I think the permit is 38,000 gallons. I think our average daily flow is somewhere down around 26. So, and knowing that what those flows are, we'll know what our peaks are, we'll know what our averages are, so that helps us to design the necessary equalization so that, you know, the process can be fed at a rate that and the system can be sized appropriately to accommodate that equalized rate of discharge into it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Pretty much.
Okay.
But thank you very much for the explanations.
Everyone up here has had to learn to be a little bit of an engineer over over our course of time.
I'm sure.
So the first thing I would tell you is everyone on the board is really delighted to see this happening. You've been very diplomatic in your speech about how it's not really working that well. That's very diplomatic. It's been failing for a long, long time, and I know this issue's been bubbling up for a while. I can imagine the homeowners association didn't want to have to face this.
Right.
But at some point you have to face the music. So we want to work with you and get you through our system as quickly as possible. As I said, we'll be relying on Department of Health and our own engineer as part of the evaluation. Since I asked most of my questions and then Mr. Sotero covered the rest, there's just one other question I have. There's a parcel that's to the northwest that I believe abuts the property. It's 4.64 acres, and it sits just to the north of the parcel that it appears that Ms. Rogers owns a parcel that has both the commercial use, it's a testing laboratory on the north side of Phoenix. Smith. And then that seems to be in the same parcel as the Royal Crest Apartments. So the parcel just due to that, it's grid number 752012, 4.64 acres. I believe they should be notified. They look like they're adjacent to the site. Again, I want to make sure that we notify everybody. We've made errors like this in the past where we had to re-notify and restart a public hearing. I don't want to have delays based on that. So if there's a reason why I was excluded, then just make sure that we're legally copacetic on it.
Right, the law requires notice to all properties within 150 feet of all property lines. And so because this is a condo, you have a ton of property lines.
So I think that one needs to be included. From what,
If it's within 150 feet of the other one, then yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
If Benjamin Hamblin's is on, that's actually on his property hits 9 on the south of the Royal Crest condominiums. It's even further away than what this looks like. So we should identify the owner and make sure that they're notified for public hearing, et cetera.
So Donna, how far in advance do you need to get the notice to the paper?
When you set the public hearing on Wednesday, it's that following Friday.
So she would need the list fairly quickly,
Okay.
the neighbor list.
Could I impose, just ask you to just kind of run through real briefly the procedural,
We work to mail notices of a public hearing to everyone who has a property within 150 feet of the site.
Do we do that, or do you do that?
No, we do that.
Okay.
But that's why we need to make sure we have all the grid numbers covered.
Okay.
Because that means that everyone in the condominium, all the owners of the condominium will also have to be notified.
So we get that information to the planning department, to the planning board secretary?
Right, to Donna Knapp.
Okay.
And I want to make sure, like I said, that the property, the parcel that's over, I said it's 752012, it's 4.64 acres. The owner is not labeled, but I think that looks to me, just eyeballing it, looks to me as though they need to be noticed as well.
Okay.
And that would be assuming that we were going to set a public hearing for 2 weeks, but.
No, it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks, that's right. So the public hearing the notice to the Poughkeepsie Journal would need to go back into then a week from Friday? If you think you have enough time to get all that information over to Ms. Knapp, then we can set a public hearing to start for our November 5th meeting, I think it is,
Yes.
because that'll give her plenty of time to do that then.
I'm hoping we'll have it to you tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, we're prepared to take action tonight, just to type the action and do a general referral. Who has this file?
That'd be me.
Thank you.
I have a little note here that I have to take before I can read anything.
Okay.
And it's, for referral, please ask the applicant to supply 3 more full sets, maps, applications, and EAF.
3 sets?
Yeah.
Do we need the EAF to be submitted?
We don't need the EA.
We don't need the EAF because it's a type 2
Okay.
action. You filled it out
Scratch the EAF.
nicely, but we didn't need to. So just 3
Scratch.
more sets, right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Now
you.
we can get down to business.
One last question about procedures. Do we advertise, or do you folks do that?
We do it.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to do, I guess, is probably the better question at this point.
No.
Okay.
See how friendly we are here?
You are. You are. That's great.
Resolution number 14-43, whereas. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby, 1, classifies the project as type 2 action under seeker. 2, directs its secretary to refer the site plan set to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to Section 239M of the General Municipal Law. And 3, directs its secretary to refer the site plan set to the New York State Department of Transportation, Dutchess County Department of Health, and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for review and comment thereof.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Because I have one quickly. Wouldn't he need to provide 4 full sets, including the 239 referral?
One back there.
Oh, you do? Okay, so we just need 3 more. Perfect. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do you want a copy of this for any reason?
Great. Thank you.
And now may I get a motion to set a public hearing for the November 5th meeting?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So, Mr. Paggi, thank you for coming in. If you can get that information to Ms. Knapp as quickly as possible, both the sets of plans so we can start the referral, as well as all the grid numbers and information, and maybe that, like I said, that parcel. If you can measure it with less than 150 feet, then we don't have to, but I don't want to have any reason to start this process over again because of procedural error.
Agreed.
Okay? And we'll see you on November 5th.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is the Carriage Trail at Town Center. And the applicants are seeking an additional extension of a prior granted approval. And Mr. Riley, we haven't seen you in a while. Can I call you Supervisor Riley to show the honorific? Since
Only if I can call you Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go right ahead. Since Mr. Riley was here last, he got bit by the bug and ran for office and has successfully stayed in office. Congratulations. And I do mean that.
I'm
You would
used to
think
the other
you'd
side
know
of the
better
table now.
after visiting
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So,
It's caused me to have reading glasses. But I found much more paperwork from that side of the table.
join the crowd. I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Okay. I know we have at least 2 new members. I think somebody was here just starting,
Mr. Signa.
Mr. Signa last November of 2012, so I don't know if you want the 30-second version or the 3-hour version of the history of the project.
30-second.
30-second version, either according to planning board files or town legend. This project was filed in 1989 by Arthur Rosenblum. It was picked up in 1999 by Sarkar LLC as the second developer in, and if tradition holds, 2014, 2015, we'll see the third developer in, and allegedly that's good luck. But I've been working on the project since early 2005 before the planning board. We are looking now, to give you a little bit of history, the project started construction and financing in 2007 with the superior timing with the marketplace. The bank that took on the project was taken over in late 2009. The merger did not go well for the project in that the project was, the commitments to the project was stopped by the new bank in 2010. Construction was ceased. The developers looked for secondary financing sources, which didn't exist in the marketplace at the time. We came back to the planning board, and the planning board was very accommodating to us in 2011 and 2012. We changed the project to a HUD rental application, and then they changed the HUD rental regulations in 2012 to require multiple more millions of equity, and more importantly, they did not allow the phasing of projects at the time. So you were faced with a marketplace that was still in the throes of the recession, and HUD requiring that we put on nearly 300 units into the marketplace in a 26-month period. So the combination of those factors basically had the owners with no financing sources, either from the government or from the private market. The bank now is Key, who's been working very cooperatively with the developers. Their loan matured in 2010, was extended twice, and at that point, they and the owners decided they needed to seek either a new developer or to sell the project, and that process has been ongoing, I think, with some knowledge of the town in the last 2 years. The reality of it is that the owners that started this process when they bought the project in 2000 have gotten older, and they were all individual gentlemen. It wasn't a large company at the time. It was 7 individual gentlemen, of the youngest of which is now in his 60s. And their risk aversion has decreased in those 14 ensuing years, so that most of them are retired and not in the country any longer. So we need a new developer. I waited until October of this year, hoping to have a definitive answer as to who that white knight would be. And I did not have a definitive answer, so I did not want to delay, because our approvals technically run out in November of this year, and I knew we had to start the process of extension prior to the termination of the prior approvals. We do have a company looking at it very seriously right now, which is a local company. I don't want to put their name on record yet.
Don't jinx it.
Yes. And the bank itself, who's working jointly with us to bring in a new developer, has a couple options they're looking at too. So that I hope in the near future I'll be able to have a more definitive statement on who will carry forward this project. The bank is intent on preserving the approvals and the project. They value it highly. The bank has invested approximately $5.5 million into the project. The current ownership has approximately $6.4 million invested into the project. So there is a large amount of equity at stake here, and nobody is willing to, A, give it away or sell it cheaply. Probably the difference between this project and some of the projects that have changed hands in the last 6 years, this had a substantial amount of investment and hard construction already finished prior to the downfall of the marketplace. And so its appraisal value remains much higher than a typical sell at discount type of project, which has made it, in one hand valuable, on the other hand almost impossible to deal with, because the only buyers in the marketplace are looking for severely discounted at auction type of projects. So we've had to wait out the entire marketplace till they've come back to the point where there is no more inventory of the cheap deals, and people looking to actually build something of some worth are now starting to come back to look at our project. The marketplace locally is not bad, truthfully. The best comp for our project is Brookside Meadows in Pleasant Valley. It's only about 12 to 15 minutes south of this project. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Not me.
It's a Kirchhoff project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It was taken over, it was another condominium project that was transformed into a rental project. Its rentals are in the smallest unit is in the $1,250 range, and it's a la carte, so there's a lot of fees on top of that, and they go up to $2,200 a month for their larger units, some that have garages and some have more of a townhome shape to them. They are full with waiting lists on some of their units.
Wow.
So there is
Yeah,
demand.
That's true.
Wow.
I believe it.
Yeah.
There is demand.
I mean, the Gardens is all in Rhinebeck that Joe Kirchhoff also took over. It's the
Yes.
Gardens, I think.
He's on the end of phase 2, and he's
He's-
almost sold
I
out.
was just going to say, he's got demand there as well, so.
So it's not so much the demand in the marketplace and the need for new rental housing, which Hyde Park hasn't seen in, I would say, decades. I think it's mostly the ability to finance such a large undertaking.
Right.
and to have the multiple financial institutions willing to take that risk now. And I think we're coming around the turn, but we're not there yet. And Hyde Park and Dutchess County are probably a little bit behind New York State and the country as a whole in terms of coming around to a stage of redevelopment. We're just, everybody who looks at the project ends up finding something that they're not comfortable with Dutchess County, or they're not comfortable with Hyde Park. But I think that is changing. So I'm a little bit more optimistic than I was 4 years ago, and certainly more optimistic than I was actually during the HUD process 2 years ago. So that's a little bit of the history of where we stand. What path I'd like to take, of course, I work at the pleasure of the board in terms of how I'd like to look at extensions, but there's, based on comments from Victoria, and I'm sure that Peter will have comments and comments from Ms. Moss, I think that there's two ways of looking at this. We have, in 2012, we put in place extensions for the vast majority of our permits through October and November of 2015, and that's the, go through them for you, but we have, that's the DEC, freshwater wetlands, speedies, and also water retention, DOT, water distribution, sewage collection, sewage treatment plant approvals. So they're into 2015. So the question that I would state, looking at the requirements that Victoria's speaking about, is do we do a short-term approval for 1 year, knowing that we have the approvals in place and I can bring a new developer to the planning board during that term to start going over what really needs to be taking place, which is new stormwater protection plans, probably an update of the DEC maps, or do we want to undertake that now with a 2 year extension and make a contingent on updating all those studies at this point? I think that Victoria did mention that she'd like to look at some of the DEC issues and the wetland issues. I can tell you that when we left the project construction, we had already finished construction of all the water retention systems and the drainage systems. I checked them as of even last week. They've been mainly dry. There's small gullies that they've collected some water over the years, but mainly dry. So A, there's not 1 foot of impervious material on the site, and B, there's been a full water retention system constructed on the site. So if anything, I would think that if the water retention system and the drainage systems are working, our wetlands and our water areas are probably less than they were when we started out. And I can tell you that the very extensive retention ponds have not been really scratched the surface in terms of use. It would be better if there was some water in it, at least they would delineate better. They're more overgrown with grasses than they are with water. So I don't think that there's any issue in terms of that the wetlands have grown or that the wetlands have moved, because all of that was retained and worked on prior to the end of construction. But I understand that the studies are out of date. So I would go either way, depending on what the board was thinking about in terms of that.
Well, that's why I mentioned in my initial email that I wanted to have a healthy discussion amongst board members. As you know from your own experience, the purpose of doing a seeker evaluation is to make sure that we have the most current information possible before we take action. And the seeker information that these decisions rely on is predated. In most cases where we have similar approvals but they have not moved forward, after so many years we've asked for redelineation and recertification of wetlands because wetland boundaries move, and DEC's indicated to us that every 6 years they'd like to see them recertified. The other real issue that you faced under seeker were the fact that this was in an area that it was recognized that Blanding's turtles were likely to move around through. I know this caused, I've gone through the original files, it caused great consternation at the time, particularly by your engineer, so that some standard DEC protocols were placed on the map to protect them, and then those, when I've been out to the site, they were actually built, instituted, et cetera. But it appears to me that some of those have degraded, and I just want to make sure that there's a way to ensure that before there's even any truck out there, before building permits done, before anything happens, that some of those are rehabilitated, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think the tunnels themselves, which were concrete, were degraded. There's probably been some stones through ATV use that have been falling off.
Correct.
The thresholds of the so-called turtle crossings and turtle bridges and turtle tunnels.
Yep.
There was the full implementation of the Landing's turtle protection system in
Right.
place and completed. To the tune
So
of, I think,
it was all built.
$240,000.
You have like little walls built up
Yep.
to keep them out.
We have
In
walls,
some-
we have tunnels, we have.
In some cases, the
we
walls
don't-
have
we don't
fallen
have any
over.
turtles yet, though, but
No,
we haven't found a turtle yet.
I might add, because you're in luck, in effect, because you deforested the area so successfully, there's too much solar penetration likely for the Imbus blandingii, to say the Latin fancy term, to be utilizing it, because you're too bright. But we will need, we're going to look for guidance at first from the consultants. Mr. Sotero, any comments?
No, not really. I mean, there's really nothing to I mean, we were out there when they were building, and they do have a majority of the stormwater system in. And I know that Victoria's going to talk a little bit about the seeker. I mean, the project is there, it's been, approved, and
And we should add that part of the costs were not just soft costs, which were, I think, substantial, given that I believe this was actually formally submitted by Mr. Rosenblum, but this was started by Elmer Van Wagner, who's now passed. That's how long this thing goes back to.
the only other
Talking stages.
The only other thing that I would like to add is that over the years since the project stopped, there's been several issues with the beavers out there. And no, I just want to say that any time that we've contacted John, he's been very good, right out there, cleared it out. So I just want to get that out there, that he's been very, very cooperative anytime we've had an issue with that. And so we appreciate
We're
that.
good neighbors, and we actually just asked we're working with the Moose Club, we redid the driveway just in the last week or so, and they've been volunteering labor, we've been volunteering materials to make sure the driveway's flat, and so the fishermen can also use the pond area. We do have some residential fishermen, and we do have a full-time beaver catcher, and he is more than happy to help. I know we have the beaver problem has moved south of us a little bit right now.
Oh,
For those on the board not in the know, our councilwoman for this ward and Mr. Riley are in contact every year because beavers create dams and it causes downstream flooding, apparently. So, and you have been, upstream flooding, and you have been very, very, very cooperative, I know. So, thank you.
I appreciate that, and I also appreciate the Hyde Park police, seeing him on video. They've been doing a good job of policing the site for us since we had an incident of theft 3 years ago. And not only did they find the thieves, we got almost, we have 3 civil suits and restitution on them. So they were very good about doing all of that.
Our constabulary is going to be happy to hear that right now, because we're in budget talks, as you can imagine, so,
Yes,
thank you.
very aware of budget month.
Yes, she would be as a supervisor. Ms. Plaudero, do you want to speak about seeker?
So I was just trying to get Pete's opinion on what would need to be updated, given that they've already put in some of the infrastructure.
Right, because the water line was extended off Hudson, I believe it was
Yes.
extended, it goes all the way down. I mean, they've done substantial work on this, so. The
Right.
roads were roughed out, basically.
The roads
Not
for
all
phase
of
one.
them.
The
Roads for
first
phase
phase,
one.
which is about maybe 10 acres of the 55 was deforested, cleared, and everything roughed out, but nothing impervious put on there yet.
Right.
It's up to a little bit below base
Buildings near
grade.
the wetlands at all?
Are the buildings near
The
wetlands?
proposed buildings?
I don't have a site plan, but there's nothing within, the 100-foot buffer. I don't remember if there's any even close.
No, we were careful when we did our HUD application in 2012, that any buildings that were even close to the wetlands were eliminated in the 2012 revised site plan.
When they
Because
changed,
HUD had stronger restrictions than the state did.
right, when we changed the, I guess I'll say the footprint or the, so that there are 4 corner units. As a sort of an exchange for that, they got rid of some buildings that were closer into a more environmentally sensitive area. That's one of the reasons why we're working with them so nicely.
So, we've done this on many projects in the past. The board has requested that the applicant update its seeker review. And sometimes it's just as simple as giving the board a narrative saying that, we've looked, there haven't been any projects in the area which are going to impact traffic. Our traffic counts are still consistent, no new building permits in the area. Just giving a quick little rundown of how
Sure.
or why things haven't changed.
That's not an issue at all.
And you don't have to update, there'd be no new need for Blanding's turtle studies because it's already been recognized that it was suitable habitat, so.
Right, so you don't need to update that study.
Right.
The wetlands, I don't have a site plan in front of me, so I don't know if it's relevant or not.
Do you want to get a site, can you pull a site plan for us? Do we know which one was last approved?
It's November 2012.
That's what I thought. Just so we can take a look. Because that's, I said, that was just the biggest issue to me was about the wetlands because we've required everybody else to do it, but,
Yeah, I don't have a problem, truthfully, if we go back to the company. That I think they did it in 2010 and 2012. They provided a HUD update.
oh,
So we could probably get them to,
if you have something, then why don't you just submit that with the narrative?
yeah. I'll see
Because
what
that
we
would be
have.
within the 6-year time frame that DEC.
Yeah,
is-
I know HUD required us to look at that.
Okay. Okay.
And at the time, actually, the
That would be
wetlands were smaller.
Yeah, if you have that already, just submit that.
Then submit that.
Did you just say that when you looked at it 2 years ago, the wetlands were
It was
actually smaller?
2010, so it wasn't 2
Okay,
years ago. but
4 years
yeah,
ago.
They were finding actually that the wetlands were smaller. Now, it depends.
Because there was less water flowing into them because of
Yes,
storm.
because
yes.
we have a whole retention system, so there's less retention in the wetlands because it drains now.
That makes logical sense. So I think,
No, the beavers aren't in the wetlands area.
No, they're in the running water, yes.
They're creating new wetlands, but
they are indeed. So, in other words, you'd be comfortable moving forward for us to reaffirm seeker as long as there's an update on the pertinent issues, the big
Right.
issues that were identified.
I'd be happy, we can actually do I hate to say this, a data overlay on an existing map to take a
Oh,
look at.
No, we like that. Don't hesitate to say data overlay.
Yes.
To show any changes that might be there. If you have updated information on the wetlands, then I, for one, would be willing to accept it as long as I said it's less than 6 years old.
It's amazing actually how the satellite mapping can actually make this process a lot easier than it used to be.
And you are aware, by the way, that there've been foil requests on this application, or did you know?
I would guess either from potential buyers and/or the financial institutions,
These
but
were-
mainly potential buyers.
A large construction company, not local.
Yes, recent,
Yes,
yeah,
and pretty big, like in New York City big.
yes.
Okay, just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Like I said, I can't give any definitive.
No, I'm not going to say any names. I hate to queer a deal in advance by going public, so, can you take a look over there, Peter? Does it look?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is the, this is the
That's 2007.
2007 approval, so I don't remember, John, what buildings were
I can,
eliminated.
I have it.
I mean, there's only.
This is a long, complicated file, that's the
There's
reason why.
only one set of buildings that are even close to the 100-foot buffer to one of the DEC wetlands. That's the
Down here.
one, that's the one more towards the north on the green fields.
You have a full
Or
redo
green-
in
green
2012 there, and so I'm.
right, we just don't have it in front of us.
Okay.
I mean, we'll look at
Well,
it.
we can take a look.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean-
if those are the buildings near the wetland that have been eliminated, then, include that in your narrative and explain that even if the wetland moved, it's not gonna have an impact,
And also, if you have, like I said, if you have the updated information as part of your HUD package,
it's not
Yeah,
in
I'm going to
standard.
pull the HUD package information, which I think was actually submitted in 12, but it might be in some file somewhere. But either way, I'll.
maybe it
I'll
was, maybe,
provide it.
we may have asked for that then in 2012 because of relying on older information to reaffirm secret, but I don't think we did.
No,
I mean,
because it hadn't been like 6 years.
I can state it for the record, one of the reasons why the board has wanted to work to see this come forward is not just to help you as an applicant, but also, once you've gone this far, it seems a shame just to see all that money sitting there and nothing happening to it, because,
Well, I think Route 9G still needs a pioneering element north of the Rite Aid and corner.
The crossroads there.
I think this project still is because of its approvals, and God knows the long history of approvals in Dutchess County are still present, it's one of the few spots where a true large developer could come in and find a project ready to go.
And by the way, we're having some aesthetic upgrades, so to speak, to buildings on 9G right now, but they're primarily south of you in an area. But it's nice to see that happening on 9G in particular, to get a little love.
But I will forward to Pete the 2012 versions of the site plan. I know it was submitted because I can remember.
Yeah, I'm
the
sure,
green
I
highlighting.
probably even have it, John, somewhere's in the office.
But I'm not sure what this narrative.
No. Let me start to my right. Mr. Mercigliano, any comments?
No comment.
Mr. Oliver?
No comment.
Ms. Dexter?
Yeah, thank you for the walk down memory lane, that was. Who knows, maybe we'll see this project through to the end.
Yes, I think that, You were new when we started.
Yes.
We were
And it
appointed at the
was
same
already an old
time. Yes, it was
project.
already an old project. And as I pointed out to you in an email, your kids may be through college by the time this is finished, which is shocking to consider. Mr. Murphy, any comments?
None other than, hope we keep going down along the trail.
Yeah. Mr. Signa?
Yeah, the only comment I have to make is the sadness is that we've got clear-cut area there that nothing is happening one way or another, so neither the environment nor the development is occurring, so anything we can do to move it one way or the other.
That's how I feel, because right now it's probably ailanthus and invasives are probably coming in there now.
Right.
Yes, when you say clear cut and no environment, I would tell you that nature is aggressively.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
fill it back as quickly as it can, but
Ed and I walked the site with his wife, who's on the CAC, 2 years ago, and to be honest with you, I remembered where most of the rough out was, but some of the roads, I couldn't even remember if it was really a road or not, because things were going back up.
Yeah. The road system that we put in back then when we were actually cutting and filling phase 2 and 3 is definitely been taken back. What we preserved was really the phase 1, which is really just
That's
a
what I thought. Right.
U-shaped road
Okay.
that has 96 units on it that actually the foundations were actually dug out and refilled with it. They were already blasted and the rock remade, and that became the road beds. And then the construction road we kept in good shape, which is the stone dust road just east of the U-shaped road, and that goes back to phase 2 and phase 3. And that's, we purposely did not try to keep the phase 2 and phase 3 road systems that went all the way to Green Tree intact at this point.
Yeah, no.
We kept the phase
Would have
1.
come handy because we had a flood.
We had a flood in Green Tree, right, but they couldn't penetrate through there's, for the rest of the board as well, the applicants at one point purchased a residential house, a lot, and then created an emergency entrance or exit so that fire departments, and it was to the benefit of the applicant, but I must say it was also to the benefit of residents of Green Tree.
Oh,
Because
yeah, absolutely.
if there's a flood or if a fire or something stops there, that truly is a cul-de-sac neighborhood. There's no way to get in or out except for the one entry until now. That's just a little bit more of a brief history. So we need to set a public hearing for an extension. Could you, do you feel comfortable getting the narrative and information to us over the next?
I don't have a
Because
problem
we have a
with that.
three-week lag.
Yeah, I would probably go for the December timeframe meeting, and so that way, if anything else comes up, that I can have time periods to see what kind of things we have in the files and dig them out and get them over to Victoria and Peter.
That's not a problem, and I appreciate you wanting to work with us that way and that level of depth. Does anybody know our first date in December? I don't have a calendar in front of me. Oh, thank you.
December 3rd.
Yep.
Great. May I get a motion to set a public hearing for this extension for December 3rd?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And just for the record for everyone, even though the approval will technically lapse in November, the fact that he started this process up legally
Timely.
means it's in a timely fashion. So, well, this is just for the newer people, so.
Lesson learned in 2006, I believe, when I came here the day before.
Yes, that's considered timely still under case law, thank heaven. So we'll have Victoria and Pete work with you to make sure that we have everything ready to go before we meet in December,
I
okay?
appreciate the accommodation of your professionals who've always been very professional in working with me.
My, it's like Chip and Dale up here tonight. I
Yes.
just love it. So, thank you. Because I can remember a day when it wasn't quite like this. And by the way, if, I'll try to get you set up, depending on how many other public hearings there are, we'll try to set you up first, because I know you've got to drive back. That's why I
No,
moved
that's
you up,
okay.
that's why I moved you up to second
I
on the
do
agenda.
appreciate that. I always like to hear things about, especially if it's a sewer transportation corps, which are near and dear to my heart.
This is true.
Just going off record, you have to also probably do the adjoining, if there's a third party in a sewer transportation corp, you have to notify the other sides.
I wasn't going to say anything, because I thought Department of Health would have already addressed this issue to him, but,
It's a 6-month process.
oh dear, well.
Yeah, they
I don't know
definitely.
if there's some kind of grandfathering provision.
That's what we were thinking, maybe if
Existing.
the Department of Health didn't request, maybe it's grandfathered, because it's, I don't know,
I don't know, we'll have to look into
but
it.
we'll look into it.
After public notice, you'd have to go to the other side if they have, you have to do the adjoining landowners for the other sides.
Boy, that's a lot.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Rice, good to see you. The next item on the agenda is Biskup. The applicants were seeking a waiver of site plan requirement because they're in a SAS. They're looking to build an in-ground pool. The pool is not visible from the river nor from one of the two historic sites why the statewide area scenic significance was established. And we have a recommendation from the zoning administrator. So who has this file?
I do. Resolution number 14-44, whereas an application requesting a waiver of the site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board on October 2nd, 2014 by Thomas and Kristen Biskup for property located at 34 Mansion Drive in the Town of Hyde Park. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the file entitled Biskup regarding the specific request as submitted October 2nd, 2014, and in the building permit application file for this project.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Sir, were you here for that application?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Got a phone call at 5 o'clock to let her rush down here for a Dollar General zoning board meeting.
Oh, okay. So you're next on the agenda. The next item would be Dollar General. The applicants are seeking a permanent recommendation for signs that we would be sending over for various variance requests to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And can you sit down and state your name for the record for us?
Wayne Gendron with Action Sign Company.
Aha. Good. You're from Rensselaer?
Yeah, I'm more towards Pittsfield myself personally.
Oh, okay. I was like, I wish I would have put you on earlier than it was so far away.
I set
So,
the phone call at 5, so
okay.
not a big deal.
Well, I appreciate you coming down. We weren't sure actually anyone was coming over. Are you familiar with the application?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I believe let me make sure I have everything down correct. The first, we are allowed, and under our discretion, to give an inch increase from the maximum of 10 for every 20 feet a building is set back from its primary access roadway. So in your request of October 7th, 2014, this is not yours, it's by Wendy Eads?
The office manager for
Right.
Action Sign Company.
What it says is that for the front building sign, she'd like to increase 10 inches to 12 inches due to the setback of the building being 50 feet. Then the second, she has a side building sign, and it's illustrated later that they're asking for 10 inches to 13 inches due to the setback of the building being 70 feet.
Correct.
The building can't be set back both 50 feet and 70 feet.
Well, there's two.
No, the building is set back 50 feet.
Okay.
The sign may be set back, but it's not, the way our code reads is it's not, in other words, if if the building is set back 50, the most we can give you would be 2 inches. We
per
can't give
side.
you 3. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Okay.
You'd have to go to the ZBA for whatever other increase you want. That's what I was going to say. Then the second issue was you were asking for an increase in the overall square footage of the freestanding road sign,
Correct, by 2 square feet.
and that's just a recommendation. There's nothing for us to agree. Then you have increased the road sign address panel from 1 square feet to 3 square feet.
They just want to be more visible for the address.
There's something wrong there. And again, I don't mean this rudely. I'm not trying to chastise you by any means, but
Understood.
you're showing that this 1049, the address, is what
Correct.
you want increased to 3 square feet?
Yes.
But that's not 3 square feet because the entire base is only 3 feet. In other words, it looks to me as
No,
though...
the 1x3 panel, which makes it it's a 3 foot tall, but. the
Ah,
panel is
1
3
foot tall,
wide.
3 foot wide, okay.
Correct.
It wasn't ever labeled for me to say this was 3 feet. I see 3 and 3, no, I see 3 and 3, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Okay. Because all this has to go into, I am the fortunate one who gets to write these letters, and I have to have everything specific to the ZBA, so, okay, so it's a 1x3 for the increase, an increase of 2 extra feet. Oh, and for the 30 square feet to 32 square feet, I'm not sure how you got 32 square feet either,
It's a 4x8 sign on top of the masonry base.
4 by 8.
Do you only count the letters of the sign, or do you include the whole box?
No, it's the whole box, but
Right.
it's showing me that it's 3 feet and 3 feet. Oh, so this
No,
is
those are the
6,
lights.
just between the lights.
Correct, that's
There's an extra,
lighting.
there's an extra foot here.
Yep,
Phew, got it, okay.
not a problem.
And then the road sign text height, you would like that to go from 10 inches to 12 inches, and that's just a recommendation from us because we can't, there's no discretionary, because you're not the building, okay.
I understand.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions, I appreciate
No
it.
problem.
And board, how would you guys like for me to compose this letter? Would you like, or first, At our next meeting, we can do the increase if you guys believe that it's warranted. It's 50 feet back, and if you had a chance to, did everyone get this full application, I hope? Yes? Yeah. So if you had a chance to look, the Dollar General that they're proposing seems to look okay, given the size of the gable end wall there to me.
I thought it was proportionally appropriate with the building.
Yeah, so we'll likely then, we're not allowed to tell you how we're going to vote, but we'll likely
I understand.
authorize that at our next meeting. Then, do you feel as though the increase for the road sign from 30 to 32 square feet is appropriate?
Appropriate.
Yes?
Ooh, well, Jen's,
Anybody else?
yes.
Okay. Increase of the road address from 1 square feet to 3 square feet, does that seem appropriate, given the size of the stone base that it's on?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, you're scoring well.
Thank you.
And last,
Outrageous.
the sign text height from 10 inches to 12 inches on the freestanding sign. Anyone, I mean, I personally think that 10 inches is plenty big myself, but I also note that, given the size of the panel that they're requesting, 10-inch letters is going to look kind of dinky with a big white background, so I'm presuming that's why you proposed that.
Correct.
So, just so you know, we had a similar request from a local financial institution recently, and they wanted an increase as well, and what we suggested was that they reduce the overall sign panel instead, because 10 inches right up along the side of the road is generally considered, from our studies, viewable for this area, given the speed of the roadway. But if everybody else wants me to write a letter where we recommend the increase, then I will. Any comments?
I have there's no need visually to identify it, so I don't see why we should make the recommendation on that particular panel.
And you're with him on that one?
Within.
Okay, and
Visually, I think the 10-inch, did I see you? Go ahead.
No, I didn't, no, I wasn't gonna say.
I
was
think
thinking.
visually the 10 inches kind of looks better, spatially on the panel there.
Okay. If I could just add one thing, I know it's kind of a sore subject from hearing from the variance board last time I was here.
oh,
Going down that road, I know that everybody had a 10-year span to change all their signage on that road, hence the new sign ordinance that went in effect back in 2005. Currently, we have signage on that road that far, far exceeds what you guys allow right now.
but it hasn't been 10 years yet.
It's 10 years as of January 1, and if they haven't started to change
No, it's
that.
10 years as of June 2015. That's when the
Okay.
code was adopted. So they still have a year. And in that time, the zoning administrator has, I'm just letting you know,
Yep.
because we take this pretty seriously up here. The zoning administrator's been directed by the supervisor to, as of January 1st, to start telling people you have
Okay.
this much time in which to change your signs. And even though a lot of signs in that area haven't changed, I can tell you right now that we just had the insurance company right down here change to come into conformance. There'll be a bunch there have actually been several that are already coming into conformance now. We also just had, we just approved, is it called Park Beverage Discount Center, I
Right.
think? They changed their directory sign, it was way too high to come into conformance. And closer to you, where you're going, the mobile station was just approved. Its sign is too high. It's also come into compliance to come down,
And
so.
with the Haviland Shopping
Haviland
Center, all those are.
Yeah, I mean,
Glad to see that everybody's else coming in. My
Oh,
main
yeah.
concerns
We're
was
not
that you have
picking on
gyms and doxies right there that are overloaded with signage. I don't want to get lost in the clutter coming down the road.
no, I understand, and I'll be honest with you, too. I mean, I can't be honest, but I've been told by a certain patron of one of those businesses that one is going to be coming into us for some aesthetic improvements.
I guess I can't complain then.
No, I think just the opposite. Quite honestly, you're a new company, and you're coming in, and there's all the reason to be in conformance, but everybody else would then point and say, look, you let the new guys come in, so we win nothing.
But it's the low-profile monument sign that's preferred that's almost required under our code. 'Cause it's not quite, you can have single pole instead of two poles, et cetera, as long as they're
A
low.
little nicer
But-
with masonry base.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, we're trying to get all the signage to come into conformance now as soon as possible, because none of us want to fight with site owners, and that's why letters will be going out. In addition, just so you know, Stan Frank, who's the vice chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and Ms. Moss, the zoning administrator, and I went 3 years ago to the Chamber of Commerce to start telling people, think about this now. So I think the chamber's requested that we do that sometime at the beginning of the year as well, have a presentation to the chamber members so they can send that out as well. And last but not least, just between the two of us, some of the local sign companies are already being aggressively pushing the current sign businesses into coming into conformance because they make money, as you know. They're advising, in other words, people, you're going to need to do this anyway, why don't you go ahead?
Ambulance chaser at this point.
Well, I won't use that term for them, but I keep going, wow, this is the same group that keeps coming in and proposing these signs coming into
If I was
conformance.
local to the area, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
So I will compose a letter accordingly and send it out. I'll have it sent to the rest of the board, and then we'll take action at the next meeting. You're before the ZBA right now, right?
I'm supposed to show up next week on the 22nd. Is that null and void at this point until you guys meet again?
They have to have a requirement. I mean, they have to have this from us first.
Because I know they listed it as a public hearing for the 22nd. I got notice that it was already posted and we're ready to move forward on the 22nd.
We would have, I didn't prepare a resolution tonight for this because I wasn't aware how far you are along with the ZBA. We just got this referral.
Yeah, but they won't take action.
No, in other words, we have to act by resolution to give the dimensional increases before they'll take action, plus I have to send the letter. I mean,
But they won't take action, I don't think, at the next meeting.
Oh, are you in a public hearing for them?
Next week on the
Yeah, it's
22nd.
open next.
Then what I suggest you do is go to that meeting, and because they don't take, the ZBA is different than we are. They don't close and take action that night. They close and, I know. They typically close and then for the next meeting take action because they, unlike us, they write their own resolutions. They don't have their legal counsel do it. We have our legal counsel write most resolutions. In this case, I'll write the resolution because there's no escrow for it because it's a sign. But when you go before the ZBA, they don't always require escrow. This is standard policy for us.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why they wait, is because they want to make sure they have all the information ahead of time.
So there'll be no decision made next week
No.
regardless?
No.
Just of every other municipality that I've gone to, from Saratoga to, Albany, everywhere around the Capital District, you go to a variance hearing, that's the last step, and you normally get an approval that day, so to come back.
Yes, I've had my issues with them as well, because I've had to get
Take that
variances.
to them, not to us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get more gas. But it's all right.
I've had my own issues when I've had to seek variances myself with how long it takes. So, but the chair of the ZBA has been the chair much longer than me up here. She's been there, I believe, almost 20 years. So they have a standard way of operating that,
Keep playing with.
since Roosevelt was a boy, yeah, no, just teasing, just teasing. So, we'll put you on for the November 5th meeting and take care of everything we have to do.
Okay,
All right?
not a problem. You need me back for that, correct?
No,
No.
No? Beautiful.
you're here. That's all we need to do. I'm appreciative that you were here to answer the questions because I was a little confused about some stuff. So I've got clear direction now for where we need to go.
We'll be good.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and have a safe drive back. The next item on the agenda is, I've lost my place. There we are.
Proposal.
Local law number 2.
Is local law number 2. Let's have a quick discussion. Anybody have any issues? This was a
Rewrite, right?
rewrite based on comments they received from us and the ZBA from the initial one. Again, this law is primarily aimed, I have to be honest, at tackling the problem at the entrance to Green Tree, where it's a residential lot and there's an unlawfully stored, or a series of unlawfully stored vehicles. The only thing that I saw in my perusal, and I went through it pretty carefully twice, of the law was where it defines in the definition, where it says every type of motor vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000 pounds. Earlier, it says, it refers to if it's 10,000 pounds or exceeding 10,000 pounds. So I think that in the definition, you'd want to have 10,000 pounds or more. Because a vehicle could weigh 11,000 or 12,000, and it wouldn't be considered commercial unless it's exactly 10,000, if that's,
Oh.
I mean, this is
Yes.
picayune, but
No, the definitions have to be correct.
that's all I'm thinking, because someone could
10 pounds or more, yeah.
say, oh, mine's 10,005 pounds, so that doesn't apply to me.
No,
I was
that's
trying to
right.
think in advance, so that's the only thing that I noticed. Anybody else have any other comments?
Just that I really felt that our comments were taken
Seriously?
very seriously. And as I read this, It doesn't seem to penalize anybody for, working for a company
Hasn't.
and having that as their company car.
Correct. It's specifically
Which is
allowed
what
in
I was
Jersey
really
now.
concerned
Yep.
about, because a lot of people make their living that way and don't
Absolutely.
actually own that car.
Absolutely.
Or truck, or whatever it is. So I really think that the wording, I couldn't really find anything wrong with it.
Yay.
And I compared it to the old code, and I actually thought it clarified things more.
I agree, and I think it's nice that the town board and our town attorney took all our comments so seriously, because actually this is a more simplified version.
Yes.
And clearer. Mr. Signet,
Yeah,
add any
the-
comment?
The only comment I had to make was, the idea of writing a law to meet one specific situation always concerns me, but I think this will address anything in the future, and that's very important.
There are other sites that have been,
Yeah.
this law would have covered, but those
That's
have been
right.
remediated. In
That's right.
this particular instance, it's almost like a law had to be passed because our current laws are so vague that it's been left in a limbo situation.
Correct.
So, okay, I think then I will prepare a letter and we can vote on that at the next meeting.
Good.
We received this referral October 8th. Our next meeting is November 5th, so that gives us our 30-day time period in which to comment. Okey dokey. Then I need a motion to release escrow.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then everyone except for
Frank and Chris.
Frank and Chris, but there's still a majority of us, right?
Mhm.
There's 4 of us. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes of?
So moved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Everyone, did you take?
I don't want to
Does
pull a
Frank
Frank.
have any folders I need to take from him?
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't be an evening without that
Comment.
Hang on.